Yep. All right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 6:33 p.m. We do have a quorum present. The only two that are missing right now would be Cindy and Greg Carabine. So all the other members are here and present in person. So the next order of business approval of minutes from the October 22nd meeting. I should have had those emailed to you. Did I get a motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Second by motion by Stacy Markoulis for the second. I'll note for the record that all votes are going to be a roll call. This is a hybrid meeting, and the meeting is being recorded. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes that were presented? I sent some comments in, Kathy. All right. We're all set. All right.
Do we have anybody on?
No members right now are on. I'm expecting Cindy maybe to come online in a bit.
Oh, okay.
And I know Greg Carabine won't be here. So we'll go across the room then, starting with Mr. Kulos on the minutes. From
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
I gotta see who's, what, Peter?
Yes.
Oh, Sheila. Stacy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Joe, and myself, yes. 9-0. Is there any public comment? I don't see any members of the public here, or there may be one online, I don't know.
This is Rob Harris with NPU.
Okay,
I just have one thing regarding the gas line for the Greenville School.
okay, go ahead.
So we've done a bunch of work to relocate it. However, we are not going to do the final tie over until April, I believe. After some discussion, I think that'll still meet and more than achieve your timeline for site work. If there's any concerns or questions about that, let me know. But we've done a lot of work, and I think we only have a little bit left to tie it over, but we're going to try to do that after the cold season ends so that we can minimize the amount of time that people are out of gas for heat.
Roger that. The CM is nodding his head, so I think we're all right. So,
Okay,
all right, thank you.
you got it.
Any other comment? Any other comment? Any other comment? Here are none. We'll move on. CSG.
Yep, so for the update for Stanton, state payment request number 4 has been submitted and approved. Board of Education approval of final plan specifications and cost estimates were approved at the 11/12 Board of Education meeting. DEP stormwater management permits have been submitted to DEEP. Construction document estimate reconciliation has been completed at this time. Upcoming activities, plan completion review, item assembly is ongoing. The local reviews have commenced. At this time, the Uncas Health Department review has been completed. Independent code review and structural peer reviews have been completed for this project. The plan completion review PCR meeting with the Office of Grants Administration has been scheduled for 11/26. The next state payment request number 5 will be submitted following payment of payment request number 4. The way that it works with the state, you can't submit another payment request until the previous one has been paid. So we're basically on a schedule of submitting those monthly just to maximize the frequency of the reimbursement payments from the state. The logistics of the opening of this building have not yet been determined. As the project progresses, the distribution of students and logistics of the moves to the new buildings will need to be analyzed to understand who will be moving to the new buildings from where. Project budget update for this project. To date, as of the invoices that were approved at last month's building committee meeting, $2,246,283.37 have been expended. If you look to the was a budget change this month. I input the final contract amounts for the commissioning agent. It represented about a $26,000 savings from the original estimate, so that amount was added back to the owner contingency for the project. Greenville, state payment request number 4 has been submitted. They didn't approve this at the same time that they approved the stamp one. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag between them, even though they're submitted on the same day. Board of Education approval of final plan specifications and cost estimates were approved at the 11/12 Board of Education meeting. DEP stormwater management permits have been submitted. Construction estimate reconciliation completed. Plan completion review assembly is ongoing. Local reviews have commenced. This time, the Uncas Health Department review has been completed. Independent code review and structural peer reviews are in progress. There were a couple of missing documents that were not provided to them through the design team's package. So we've cleaned that up, and now the independent structural reviewer has those documents, and they're planning on having a report to us by Friday. Plan completion review with Office of Grants Administration has been scheduled for December 2nd, so it's 1 week after the first one. So that allows us a little bit of extra time to get all the items assembled. Logistics of opening this building have not yet been determined. As the project progresses, the distribution of students and logistics that moves to the new building need to be analyzed to understand who will be moving to the new building from where. I'm currently working on getting a proposal from MP Planning Group to assist the district or this committee, however it falls with
The district,
okay, with the redistricting effort.
we may assist in paying for it or something, I
Yeah,
don't know, as part of
yeah,
the project,
yeah.
but that would be it.
Okay.
Mm.
Project budget update for Greenville. To date, we've expended $2,231,008.69. Same scenario with the commissioning agent on this project, represented a $27,330 savings from the original budget on that line item. So that amount's been moved into the owner contingency for use.
So Mike, before you move to the next school, okay?
What's
So,
that?
I said, before you move to the next school, I'd like to go back to understand Stanton and Greenville. When you say the plan completion review with the Office of Grants Administration, one's been set for November 26th and one for December 2nd.
Right.
What is that going to entail? And do we have everything submitted in order for that review to be complete? And whatever has to happen to make sure these projects, these two, move forward with construction.
So-
We had that covered in our.
Yeah, so the assembly of all the documents is commenced. A lot of them come from the construction manager. The lion's share of the items come from the architect. We put together quite a few of them. It typically takes right up until a couple days before the meeting for us to have everything completed. All of the major milestone events that needed to happen, meaning the Board of Education meeting for the approval of the final plan specifications and cost estimates happen. We'll get that approval from this committee tonight. I've prepared the forms that are necessary in order for the review. So some of those forms are here. I have local reviews. Local reviews have been initiated with the Uncas Health District, the Fire Marshal's Office, and the Building Department have requested that we provide. And
No, I understand that because I was over at the fire marshal's office, so I saw the plans when we came in. Which he made the comment that he was expecting those a month ago. That's why I'm asking you.
I spoke to Mark directly on the phone. I don't know where it came from that he was expecting them a month ago.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that comment is made. So more specifically is because we have a construction, we've laid out a construction bid process when it's going to start. I just want to know, do you anticipate there being any reason, anticipate there being any unforeseen items that the state is going to have?
At this time, I would be unable to tell you if there's any unforeseen items that the state may have.
That's the nature of unforeseen.
Yeah, I do the best I can to mitigate the, potential for something like that to happen. Unfortunately, at a certain point, it falls outside of my control. We have it's an 80-item checklist of items that we need to provide to the state. We've been monitoring it as we've been going through this process to ensure that responsibility is assigned to all items. I've been engaged with district administration as well as all of the local review offices to ensure that we have the information in front of them and signed off in an appropriate amount of time. I personally hand delivered the plans and specs to the Uncas Health District, the Fire Marshal's office. I've been in touch with the local independent code reviewer. We made a selection based on what the City of Norwich Building Department wanted to do because they won't be completing their review independently. You know, they wanted an outside code reviewer to review it. And short of that, we're still waiting for, you know, final estimate documentation so it can be uploaded to the public school construction cost database. Tomorrow we'll have another meeting with the full team, including the construction manager, to go over all of the items again to ensure that we have them. At this time, I think there's about 12 LEA letters, probably 5 of them are outstanding. Those ones are required from design team consultants that are being worked on at this time. You know, as far as the list of items is concerned, we're all over it and doing everything we can to ensure that everything gets completed in time.
Right. So next week would be the first meeting, right? The 26th?
Yes.
Okay. So will you alert us if for some reason that 26th, you don't have everything that you need?
I don't anticipate not having everything.
I understand that. I'm asking, will you alert us if you don't have something that you need to have?
Yes, I'm in touch with Mark on it, as items become super critical. I bring it to Mark's attention and then we get through it. I mean, it's how it's gone all along, and I'm really not anticipating any issues moving into this review.
And just to let you know, Mike, where the Board of Education is having a special meeting this Thursday. One of our items we've put on there is approval of the minutes of the 11-12 meeting. So you don't have to wait until our December meeting to get that approval.
The meeting minutes from the previous meeting, the level of urgency that was required for that
That's the
meeting
approval itself.
was the approval of the Uncas and Moriarty projects, which I'll move into. The other items, it's a signatory approval of an authorization to allow the superintendent as well as yourself to sign off on the final plans, cost estimate, and specifications.
All right, and you have those forms.
I did.
So, while we're on, why don't we deal with these?
Okay. I can't read them. I don't.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Did you give her a copy? The sixth
Oh, I
one?
did not. I can give her
You
that
got it?
one.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So what I'm gonna do is, so we need some approvals, just to be able for me to have me sign approval of plans and stuff. So basically what happened at the Board of Education. Yeah, so the first motion I'll need is to authorize the chairman of the Norwich School Building Committee to certify the Norwich School Building Committee's approval of final plans, project manual, and cost estimates for State Project 104-0118N, John B. Stanton Elementary School, Phase 1 of 2. Could I get that motion, please?
So moved.
Should you add that to
Should.
the agenda first and then put that forward?
Yeah.
Because it technically it's not on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true. All
all
right,
right,
so.
I move that we amend the agenda to.
So to add, yeah, to
include
add
those
approvals for Stanton and Greenville.
To authorize the chair to sign the approvals for both Stanton and Greenville.
All right, I'll second it. All in favor? Mark? Yeah, I gotta go around.
Yeah.
Mark? Yes. Greg?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yeah.
Christine?
Yes.
Joe? Mark? Okay, the agenda stands amended. 9-0. All right, so we'll try this again. Sheila, you making a motion? I got a copy, Catherine, so.
Okay, it's fine.
So moved.
Thank you. This is on the Stanton Elementary School. Is there a second?
I'll second.
By Bill Hall, second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
myself, yes, 9-0. Could I get a motion, please, to authorize the chairman of the Norwich School Building Committee to certify the Norwich School Building Committee's approval of final plans, project manual, and cost estimates for State Project 104-0119N, Greenville Elementary School, Phase 1 of 2.
So
I'll make
moved.
it.
So moved by Sheila, second by Stacy. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
myself, yes. Motion approved 9-0. Okay, thank you. On to Moriarty. Let me get on to this here. Go ahead. Well, there's been, I'm just gonna say you something real quick. So the big thing in the last week or so has been dealing with the Moriarty and Uncas projects with DAS specifically. So we just had a meeting today that, you know, Mike's gonna get into, but and things are, I just want to lay anyone that might have any concerns, though, that I think, you know, we're all on the right track here, so hopefully we'll get this all done, but go ahead,
Yeah.
Mike.
So, Design Team and Construction Solutions Group worked with district administration to complete the revised educational specifications and space allocation for the new building. Basically, we did the demographic peer review. The demographic peer review yielded that we needed to do a new full demographic report. The new full demographic report yielded that the Uncas and Moriarty schools could be built slightly smaller than we were originally anticipating. This goes back to the bus and the demographic report that was done as part of the master plan. So the educational specifications were revised as required as part of to conform to the new amount of students that we are projecting based on, you know, you look at a total district population, you divide it by 2, or you divided it by 4 initially, it gave you the 601 based on the old demographic report. Now that we have 1,202 students in Greenville and Stanton, then the balance needs to be served by Uncas and Moriarty. That's where we got the space savings from. That demographic report takes into consideration 8 years of enrollment data into the future. So we're right sizing the buildings based on the highest 8-year projection of the enrollment. So the buildings are future proofed in essence based on the new demographic reports. A meeting took place with the Office of Grants Administration on 11/19, which was today, which Mark mentioned, to confirm information regarding the grant applications for this project. It sounds like DAS felt that we weren't ready for these projects to come about. I believe someone spoke to DAS about the fact that we weren't ready. There's an email chain that goes back a couple weeks now where I've been providing them additional revised information as needed for the 2 projects. You know, we provided everything that was on their list, and then they called to have a meeting with us today. They're looking for us to provide a revised funding authorization letter explaining the local commitment or local share of the funding for the project as well for both projects, which we're providing to them. They'd like to see the demographic enrollment report updated to be on a school by school basis. So I reached out to the demographer to have the report revised so that it is factored on a school by school basis. They were looking for one additional cost estimate, which was just an Excel form of the more complicated form that gets uploaded to what's called the Public School Constructive Cost Database. I think to some degree, you know, the way that these projects were approved through referendum is slightly outside of their normal process. Typically, they like to have projects approved on a project by project basis so that the funding authorization amount for each project is known. You know, with these projects, it was a referendum based on a $385 million allocation to do all of the projects. Didn't specifically delineate how much money was going to be spent at each building. So that's kind of where we are now with them. We should have all the information to them. We told them we would have it to them by Friday, but I anticipated it'll be done prior to that. All the information has been produced. We have it all. It's just presenting it in a different format.
Yeah, everything was on a spreadsheet that they have, but they literally wanted it on the narrative funding letter, which is great. So they just want it in their format, how they want it and stuff. And that was really that was the basis of it. I think they had a hard time understanding the project period.
I don't think they understand.
Yeah,
You're right.
And I mean, the funding authorization letter laid it out. And if you
Yeah.
read through the educational.
Josh's letter, Josh's
It
letter, I
explains.
thought explained what the situation was. So good, great. Oh, Sheila?
So the meeting that you had this morning and the
This afternoon. Yeah.
the meeting you had this morning and the information that is being revised and submitted is for what purpose?
It's for to get the priority grant applications accepted for Uncas and Moriarty.
By when?
It won't be approved until after the legislative session and it hits the priority list.
To be put on the priority list.
In
So
December,
by,
but because we ran into this,
Yeah, it's gotta be done now.
we ran into this 2 years ago
With which projects?
with the first two.
Greenville Stanton.
Well, because it didn't make it on the, whatever the internal
Legislative
process, I'm not trying to blame, I'm trying to say we had this 2 years ago. It didn't make it into the internal process to be on the priority list for the legislative session. So Senator Austin had to ask for it to be added at the January meeting. That's why I'm trying to make sure that we don't have that happen again. That she has to ask for a separate motion or a separate.
Kathy's been intimately involved with this whole thing, especially lately. In fact, DAS had reached out to her with some questions and that actually kind of precipitated what's been going on for the last couple of weeks. So, that's, right now, that's not gonna happen. I talked to Kathy Friday night about this too, so it's, I think everybody's on the same page,
No, I'm just trying to make sure. because
Yeah, no,
I remember what happened 2 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
and
It's I mean, the whole thing's kind of a pain because working with DAS right now seems to be a little bit of a moving target, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
So, because they've changed their MO, their modus operandi, if you will. And they, doing things a little different here and there to some extent. So it can be, and like I said, we're just getting everything in line with they want now for their current formatting and for the project information and stuff. So just, we got to get it done. So,
So once you submit the material that this week, whatever day it is this week, you anticipate having a follow-up meeting like you had this morning with whoever.
I don't anticipate that being necessary.
yeah.
The information is simple in nature. It's literally just presenting it in a different way. It's information that we already have. There's been many eyes on it. It's been estimated, I think the biggest thing with this whole situation with Uncas and Moriarty is outside of their normal process. There were a lot of changes that happened from the original inception of this. So I think just providing them a little extra clarity as to what's happened is really what they're looking for. And by the end of this week, they'll have that clarity.
Can I say something, please?
sure, go for it.
Just maybe to help Sheila, after we had the meeting this afternoon, they did follow up with the 3 things that they asked us to do. And Mike responded right away. So it sounds like we're on the same page based on the 3 items that they asked for and that we are going to get them, like Mike said, before Friday. They did say, Sheila, that they were on that they have to get this done by they need it by December 2nd. And we said we would have it by the end of the week because they need to get it ready for the legislation by the 12th, I believe, right, Mike and Mark?
Right,
Yes.
Right, because it's an early meeting in January
right.
that they have. Yeah.
Well, it's got to get to the bond commission.
Right, I'm just saying, there's a process. I just want to make sure the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, so we don't end up where we were 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Trying to wonder, because we're depending as a city on getting the higher reimbursement.
Well, that hasn't happened yet now for the next two schools. So for schools 3 and 4, that has not happened yet.
I said, I know it hasn't happened. I said, we're hoping that that's going to happen,
right.
okay?
And yeah. Understood. I don't anticipate that that'll happen.
Okay. Continue?
Yes, basically the exact same update for the Uncas project this time. Design team and construction solutions group have worked with district administration to complete the revised educational specifications and allocation matrix for the new building. A meeting took place with OGA on 11/19, which we just discussed. Working group meetings have commenced. A request for proposal for construction management services will be required for this project. This time we're projecting to potentially have this advertised sometime in early December. There will be quite a few changes to this version of the package. There's going to be a larger emphasis on site logistics and scheduling and ensuring that we have baseline schedules at every estimate interval, as well as logistics plans at every estimate interval. It'll help the project go more smooth. And I think it'll streamline the effort moving forward. And that's the end of my agenda
Your report.
report.
Any other questions for CSG? Hearing none? Downs. Just, so.
I think DRA's.
Oh, no, yeah, DRA is next. I'm sorry. Got my Ds mixed up. Let me do this here.
You didn't bring your dolly with the rolls of butcher paper?
I did not.
The rolls of butcher paper.
That was a nice visual, Paul. I have to say.
Signed off on.
Okay.
I turned over to Mike, and his car kind
Yeah.
of did one of these.
Yes.
And I was able to take them over.
And I will tell you for future reference, if you ever need to go to the Uncas Health District's office, I know exactly where it is, driving around the complex.
I was gonna say.
For 45 minutes, asking everyone that I could see walking where it was. Go to the credit union entrance, it's right there.
Hang on one second. Let me do this share thing.
You're not the first person.
411 Thames Street, but there's many businesses at 411 Thames Street. Very, very many businesses.
Thanks for getting that in there.
Yes.
All right, let's try this.
So we'll start with the Greenville and Stanton sites. If you hit the next slide, Mark, thank you. So in terms of the construction documentation, this is what we presented on the floor of it, as Mike indicated, both the Stanton and the Greenville drawings and specifications. That is the wrong sheet. I apologize, folks. If you go to the next slide. And then, so this reviews, or not these, but
This is not the final package.
Correct.
The local
This is
reviewers,
my-
it does not say 95% on any of
Correct.
the doc.
correct. And we were in color. Lovely. You go to the next slide, please. In terms of Office of Grants Administration, and Jill, this is some of the work that Mike has been leading with Greg from our team following. So Greg, it's kind of representation of the 6 sheets and the 80 questions.
So this is what Mike was referring to, the checklist that the state uses, and it's 80 items with some sub items in it, and it's given out early on, and Mike and I met, divided up who pulls what together between Downs and DRA and CSG. we assemble all these pieces, put them into a single posting, post that link over to the state. And then we meet on the appointed day and go through it item by item. The newest curve to this is that there used to be 2 preliminary meetings before the final one. Those 2 preliminary meetings have been taken out of play. So we're all going off of the final review form. And then developing anything that doesn't show up on there, but shows up in the earlier forms, and holding it in the background. In case someone says, what about this? Even though it doesn't show up there. So kind of a new piece there. To your point, Sheila, the only place where something would be kicked back is if one of these isn't in hand and is serious enough to delay it. Typically, it'll all be accepted in pending a document coming in. So if it's coming through another agency, say it's waiting for a signature from the review would go forward because the plans aren't dependent on that signature.
Okay.
And so there's and as Mike referred to, the LEA letters are the acknowledgement of the local educational agent acknowledging various pieces about the design. Daylight was used, technology was incorporated. They're form letters that Mike has run to ground on anything that needs Superintendent Lazard's signature, and then our design group has letters that say, yes, this was all developed in the same software, so conflicts have been resolved, and yes, we considered energy savings and those type of form letters that we collect up. So this is actually fairly straightforward checklist to get through at the end of the day. And we have this pretty well in hand. Mike and I will be talking after the meeting tonight to make sure that we have everything in play. But it's a pretty straightforward piece.
So,
Want to go back?
no, that's good.
Yeah.
Greenville and Stanton for our team, we have gone through the reconciliation meetings. We're preparing for the OGA meeting. Our documentation is complete, so it is over 1,200 kind of pages in specification manuals, about 400 pages of 30 by 42 documents for each of the schools. And that's the basis of what will be the bid documents that will go out. At this point in time, we don't have a lot of other activities to report on for Greenville and Stanton. There is a professional services proposal that I want to bring in front of you. And this is at a point in time where this is related to the geotechnical work that we have acted on, and you've been good enough to support the idea of needing additional information. We acted on that. It was approved by this committee. SLR has produced documentation relative to boring logs, character of rock, and how a bidder can consider utilization of the site. What they're identifying in this professional services supplement proposal is pre-construction activities from now to the point that you're going to have somebody out on the site where they feel with additional focus and documentation, they can assist by limiting the number of questions that a potential bidder will have and hopefully increase the pool of bidders that might be interested in the work. And if you go to the next page, I have just the cover sheet of it. And really it's at that center point beginning with the words SL or the letters SLR. This is proposed additional pre-construction geotechnical review and documentation. It's SLR's belief that this additional clarifying documentation would help the project. And they identify first to further define and clarify the approaches and increase bidder confidence. And then the second was likely increase the pool of applicants that might be interested in the work, because it hopefully would simplify it to a point where it's understood readily and they have the confidence to come bid. It's not an insignificant amount, and we, you know, when I first received this, and it was a couple of weeks ago that I received it from SLR, I had a series of questions, and the first was, we already did a study. Why would we have to do additional work relative to it? Their response is they performed the study, and I think anybody who's reviewed the study materials, and I shared some of them here at a meeting, a couple meetings back, it's significant and it's deep in terms of amount of information available. And I believe based on that, we had comments from both cost estimators who are working with us. So it's Downs and I'll let Downs speak to it on their own, but and Tarbell Construction, who is our cost consultant that we bring to the table. At the reconciliation meeting, both cost estimators indicated they felt that the study that was done helped clarify and help them be able to lower numbers relative to the site costs on the Greenville project. And that was the intent of it. You know, we were investing a significant amount of your money, but the order of magnitude on these things is millions of dollars. And the reduction for Ken was somewhere in order of magnitude of 1,300,000, that kind of range in terms of reduction in cost. So with that, we could go out on the street and hopefully have the same outcomes. What SLR is suggesting is both Downs and Ken Tarbell Construction had the advantage of working with the design team with CSG to be able to review the materials and have meetings when necessary to answer a series of questions, clarify, etc. What they would hope to do in this proposal is to continue to develop and simplify. So they've given enough that it could be bid, but what they would like to do is say, rather than giving an engineering statement of you could use multiple methods to get this answer and it's your choice, they would actually dictate or identify a recommended approach. It's not to tie the hands of a consult or a bidder to say they wouldn't be able to do the others, but the recommended approach would give them a visual of exactly what they could build and what they could do. And they feel that's what they feel would yield the additional clarification, additional confidence, and ultimately increase the bid pool.
Questions?
So yeah, sure, 1 second. I mean, the whole idea obviously is we do want to increase competition, bid competition for these projects. It's something we talked about a while back, and there is some concern. So especially when you're running multiple projects. So I don't know. I think it's probably in our best interest to look at this. I'm just, but you all can obviously have your opinion, Sheila.
So my follow-up question, so when you say recommended or maybe like preferred method is, would they be looking at the potential cost saving or costs
Yes.
that preferred method would result if they utilize that? Again, I understand it doesn't include someone can come in and say, no, we still want to do it this way, and this is what the cost is. I understand that, but I'm trying to like put it in real layman's terms.
Right. So the way and again, this was a series of conversations over some time. SLR indicates they will do value assessment, value engineering, if you will, try to boil it down to what they think is the most efficient solution out of all the solutions potential. they'll identify it. It'll be a recommended approach. It's not going to tie the hands of a bidder because there are a lot of smart people out there in the world, and somebody may see a way differently than we do, or may have a particular circumstance that they can utilize materials being developed from the site differently than another bidder. So there may be reasons why somebody might move to a different approach because it gives them another advantage somewhere else within their business environment. But what they are proposing is it's over a series of things. It's review of plans and details, review specifications, value engineering, and then ultimately, when it gets out to the specific bid support, helping those that are bidding it understand the work, understand the various approaches that are available, and try to give the bidders as much information and support as possible during the normal RFI period.
And this question is the follow-up to that is, I'm assuming this has been done in the past on of the project. I'm not saying it's the norm, it's not what normally, and I know they're specifically looking at Greenville because of all the work that had been, but it would, is this something that's in with a construction project that is as been as difficult with the land itself of Greenville?
Yeah.
Would be viewed as beneficial on the construction side. I get what they want to do, I'm saying, but
Yes.
the people, the bidders who have to bid, is this something in your opinion that they would find valuable to them?
Well, go ahead, please.
If you don't mind, it would be very beneficial. We had, I don't know how many hours of meetings with SLR trying to understand the walls and the conditions that would be going in at the Greenville site. We were very fortunate when we first started off, we were looking at all concrete walls. We were able to minimize that down to there's just really one concrete wall, but the rest is going to be some open faced rock, and then there'll be some Versalock modular precast walls that'll be there as well. However, in the drawings with the large amount of information that we received from the geotech, it might be discouraging to some bidders to look at it because they don't want to spend the time trying to make sure they're finding the right cost for the project. Just the hours that our team and Ken spent on putting this together, and even during the reconciliation, we still had calls with SLR. And so things were kind of shifting. It's because our main focus was to bring the costs down overall and trying to look at all those advantages we could have. We would think it's not only would help, get some additional bidders, but it would help give a better understanding of all the conditions out there, because there's quite a few, there's a lot of retaining walls, some very large retaining walls in some spots, and how we can possibly, as we're constructing it, be able to minimize some of those additional costs.
So
Thank you.
I have a question. So the hours that you and Tarbell spent with the design team and with the SLR, right? That's not a benefit that bidders are really going to have, is that benefit of that, all that question and answer and discussions on these things. Right, that would not be under SLR's current contract to provide all of that input to every bidder who might have a question. Is that what we're really saying?
We have normal discourse during bid period
Sure.
where we'll receive a request for information, and I'll take a look, or Greg will take a look at it and determine, well, this isn't DRA, this has to go to one of our consultants. So much of this would split between the structural engineer, where the building actually integrates with some of these wall conditions, and for the most part, SLR, their team of geotechnical experts. There would be an iterative process there that bidders could take advantage of. It's just simply, the idea of within a constrained bid period, you have to get your response back. The amount of or the ability of various bidders to be able to really dig to the various kind of decision points might not be, and that's why SLR put this proposal forward, and that is to say, take that information, try to dive it further, and provide more information relative to specific application approaches that some bidder who may not have a large resource team could take a look at it and say, here's an avenue you can go, and I think I can be competitive at it, and I'll give a bid.
Right, so beyond the normal RFI process.
Yes.
Right, SLR would be also providing.
Yes.
Design of. If you're gonna bid it.
Yes.
Okay, and you want to recommend a design, here it is, and they want $50,000 to do that.
Yeah, so I think the problem is this part of the project has gotten so complex that the concern is people will walk from bidding.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more information we can get out there, the more we can entice people to pay attention and bid it. The people who are really sharp will find these things, but they probably won't find it in the typical bid time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much work right now that people are liable to walk.
Mm-hmm.
So what SLR is saying is let us get going now. Take all the stuff that we learned prior to it, all the stuff that we learned during reconciliation, and start getting it ready to go and get it out to potential bidders.
And I get what you're saying, Jim, about it doesn't handcuff, a bidder or a construction firm on a prescribed way of doing it. It's just a recommended way of doing it so that they can come up with a number versus maybe walking away or maybe overpricing their number because there's too many question marks.
So that what was developed in terms of information is very complex. Back to Sheila's comment, it's very complex for a school project. It would be more common for quarrying or highway major cut, where those contractors would understand all of that seismic research. We're not dealing with those type of contractors typically at the school level. So the more we can bring this information to them in advance, the better chance we have of getting them to understand it and bid it. It is an hourly not to exceed. It is a fair chunk of money. What we saw in the changes and differences in reconciling the budgets, we'll make more than that back on it. I'm confident of that, just in getting the information out and putting it in front of bidders.
Well, thank you, because that was going to be my next question. What do you anticipate as a return on this investment?
Well, on the $175,000 that we invested in seismic, we saw a $1.3 million return in the understanding of the walls. So 50,000, if we understood 500,000 back, maybe, or maybe we actually get bidders.
Right.
Or otherwise we're shopping site bid.
Okay.
And what Greg touched on is important. This is a not to exceed an incomplete proposal. The idea being SLR is suggesting they'll get into this, they'll see how far they can take it. If they don't have to expend the full amount of documentation, they'll stop there. They'll submit it as an hourly not to exceed. And
So this is the max that's proposed.
Correct.
But how does this work? So
right now, don't have enough time to have it be made part of the documentation that ultimately will be submitted to OGA on on December 2nd.
okay,
What we believe we can do is develop it such that as an addendum, we can release it to the bidders and have the bidders take advantage of the information that way.
all right, so okay, it was just because review or bid support and RFIs. I was like, well, if the bidders are getting this huge package, how do they know what to ask, or how does SLR know what information to put forward? So that I guess that's where I'm getting
The examples that they gave me right now, we developed a series of wall sections and kind of engineered section types.
Yep.
They saw good response in terms of the reconciliation process, in terms of both cost estimators and their land specialists being able to say, we understand that, we got it. They think they can do more of that, basically.
More detail.
Yes.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Mark Rulis.
So my understanding is the type of organic detail that this report would have would be, you need X size drilling machine, this size diameter bore going to this depth, or in this particular section of rock, you need X amount of dynamite to get that. Is that my understanding of what this report?
the former than the latter.
More the former than the latter, yeah, well,
Hold it all up, not to take it down. Taking it down is actually the contractor's responsibility, but you make a very good point, because one of the alternative wall methods was rock bolts back in,
right.
and that caused the question of how many and on what dimensions.
Mhm.
We can resolve that with this effort.
Because perhaps a bidder does not have that particular size piece of equipment, if it requires an oversized piece of equipment that they don't normally deal with, and they would have to account for that in their bid.
Most probably what it would be is someone would say,
Or they subcontract that out.
or I think I need far more horizontal rock bolts than they actually do. And so they bid high. And then we don't get that money back once we let that contract.
So as SLR says, according to our engineering specs, you need X number of rebar bolts or whatever. And this will meet the specs for that building.
Long story short, increase the opportunity for people or organizations to bid and partner with this investment.
Okay,
And
so-
this is, I'm sorry, just one
Go
more
ahead.
quick, and this is just for the Greenville side, we don't need this kind of extra work for the Stanton side. Yeah, no. Okay,
Greenville is a unique site.
yeah. Yeah.
And possibly in the future, it might extend into the Uncas site because it's kind of a weird built on a hill kind of thing too.
It's the same thing.
Sure.
Different-
We're getting underway. You know, that's some of that we'll talk about next, but
Okay, any other questions regarding the issue? All right, so I'm gonna propose we add this to the agenda then. The issue, we'll call it, SLR Professional Services Supplement.
DRA.
Oh, DRA, well, DRA, no. DRA Professional Services Supplement, yeah.
Motion to amend the agenda.
Yeah,
to add.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Stacy, with a second. Any discussion on adding it? Hearing none. Mark,
Yes,
Greg,
Yes.
Bill,
yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes,
me, yes. 9-0. All right.
throw me off, you're going out of order.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. So,
Thank you for your consideration.
all right, so we're not.
No, it's
yeah,
just
we're
that-
not- yeah.
Mark,
Just put it on
Mark,
the
it's
agenda.
just added to the agenda.
Just
We haven't
added to
made
the
the motion
agenda,
yet
right.
to.
So I'd be looking for a motion to, approve the professional services supplement to DRA.
Sheila, so moved.
By Sheila.
That it's G005 or,
Yeah, for the Greenville project, 104-0119 and. So Sheila, second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Stacy. Any more discussion on the issue? Hearing none. Mark?
Just to add it so that it's the maximum 50,000 expenditure.
Not to-
Poison.
not to exceed.
Not to exceed $49,450
Okay,
As written.
as written.
as written. Yeah.
All right.
An motion
Oh,
and an
yes.
amendment.
Just kidding. Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Sheila, gotta get the order right this time. Bill,
Yes.
Peter, Stacy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
me, yes. Okay,
Thank you.
anything else?
I know these aren't small numbers to consider in a project.
Well,
It's-
at least there's a chance of an ROI on it, so.
Understood. So the next slide, just to give a quick update, Norwich, relative to the Moriarty and Uncas. We have been meeting with the working group, Superintendent Lassard, the two principals at each of the buildings, the head of facilities and maintenance, and other team members as need be come to the table. Mike participates from CSG's team, and internally we have a core group, including Greg, that come around these meetings to support them. We're just getting underway. So for instance, site diagramming to give you some ideas of where we're going. If you go to the next slide, at Moriarty, starting there, take a look at overall kind of building organization and solar orientation. If you go to the next slide, and take a look at, thankfully here, a site that has little to no slope. So Moriarty is a wonderful site. Go to the next slide, please. So starting to look at kind of zones, and you see the existing building kind of in the tan shade, but that is about the size footprint that we would need for a two-story building to be parked next to it. So taking a look at this back quadrant, and the discussion over to the right was looking at a series of kind of red, yellow, green. Is it good? Is it not good? Or is that type of thing across? So that's to help facilitate the conversation with the working group. If you go to the next slide, we looked at a different kind of shaping of the building, kind of in the same zone. And then the last, if you go to that front corner, this was just to give some feedback from the meeting. This was seen as least favorable from the educators because they didn't like the proximity to both roadways. They prefer to back it away to the backside of the site if possible.
For that reason, I thought it would be nice to build that way, though, personally.
I mean, we could,
From the other side of it.
there's actually, after you actually put the rest of the site in, you would see that most of the children activities would fall to the back corner.
Yeah.
So we can still have further discussion, just sharing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not wedded to anything. I mean, it's more important, to be honest with you, whatever works, for them. So to me, anyway.
They're concerned at this age are runners, young kids that really can move. So if you go to the next slide, and this is just put up as a sample. There's illegible across the top, a series of considerations like the ones that were in the vertical column, things like, contract duration or use of site, etc. And we'll put rather than red, yellow, green, we do green, yellow in this evidence, reds if it's a negative. And in that way, you could take a particular site and look horizontally across and kind of across all things. Here's how it rates. Or you can look just vertically down one row and look at a specific issue and compare it to the other two schools. Or two other approaches. How does it work? So that's just a sample of one of the tools that we're utilizing in the workshops that are happening on Thursdays. If you go to the next slide, at Uncas,
Jim,
similar.
can I ask a quick question, please?
Yes.
Who's responsible for rating those?
Well, what we would like to do, Susan, at the distribution of the PDF from last Thursday's meeting, we kind of gave you a legible listing of some of the suggested criteria. We're asking for input on that. Are there any other criteria that are specifically important to the school, to you, to the principals, et cetera? So we'll develop that more fully. And then we'll come in with a first pass at the numbers, but we'd like to have conversation around them. And again, the outcomes on these things, it's never black and white. It's just another tool to use as you're thinking about trying to rate or grade one option versus another. Does that answer your question,
Yep.
Susan?
Yes, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Okay. At Uncas, as was noted, there is more topography. So the stuff in the red is where it kind of steps up the hillside and creates a plateau off of the side of the existing Uncas school. If you go to the next slide. So here again, and again, I think at the last meeting I reported, SLR has already been out on the site and we've documented, we have no wetlands at Morgan. Again, a site that we're gonna like working on. But at Uncas, we knew that there was some concern. And actually, this is not as intimidating as we worried initially, because we thought there were other intermittent streams within the site. They saw no evidence of that. So this, we identified this option as the Phoenix, this first one, you build over the existing footprint of the building, but that comes with the whole question of where do you put those kids? If you go to the next slide, this was just one look at it. And this is, again, I'm going to step away from this conversation after introducing this. But that's the Greenville construction timeframe that we have right now. It's delivering in December of 27. For Uncas, we're in design through the end of 26, beginning of 27, we bid. There's a disconnect between, it would be great if at that bid point, we were able to move the kids into Greenville, but it won't be ready. So there's a 9-month pause. If you looked at it saying you'd like to put the kids in Greenville temporarily and then pick up the construction after that pause. But I think the question really has to go to what Mike was suggesting earlier, an overall look at the district and what all the options might be in terms of how to manage students. So I just offered it because I know there was specific interest in this idea of building over the existing footprint of the building at Uncas. It makes a lot of sense, but it comes with the problem of where do you put the kids?
What's the,
26.
yeah,
Is it, yeah, Greenville is supposed to be open in the fall of
September
26.
Actually turn it over in August. Yeah. Greenville?
Greenville,
Turning over in December.
August of 26, it's supposed to be.
we're at 22 months, right? 22 months, starting March of 25. Right?
And
22.
where does that put you?
I thought it was 17, okay.
No, it was 17, but
Greenville's
they
taking.
have modified the schedule to reflect an extended time for
I think
Greenville.
that's December of 26. Yeah. So what's Stanton's timeframe?
And that hasn't been vetted yet, so.
Yeah, it has been. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to put stuff up.
What's Stanton's timeframe?
Same.
No, it's not.
No.
It's
No.
3 months less.
August of 27, by the time all of the fields are done, the
Oh,
parking areas, the building is demolished and the new building is ready, it's August of 27.
All right.
Right.
So the school will be occupied in the fall of 26, but the entire project, demolition and reconstruction of the fields won't be done till.
But for this discussion, moving students, the target date you should be looking at is fall of 26.
Yeah.
Not for, well,
No, both schools.
Yeah, I think what you need
No.
to do is.
No, the
take-
move
so-
would happen over the summer.
Of 26.
The summer of 26, the move would happen because that's when the new building would be ready.
Scott, at which site?
We're hoping for both.
Both.
Greenville and Stanton.
Okay, well, let's go on to the next slide, because that is
It's a little
obviously a
confusing.
flawed slide. I was using the most recent Downs construction schedule to
think it
develop
works.
the December 27th.
I understand, but it's still not approved. I mean, that
Okay.
hasn't even been formally transited.
Let me move on then, because this was only meant to be a slide to identify the idea of building on the Uncas will need some serious thought about where do you move the kids. That's all. Let's go on from here, because this is
Yeah, this is some things, obviously, there's some things that need to be worked out.
obviously.
Because that was a surprise to me. All right, go ahead.
So all that simply to say that site where the existing building is on this particular parcel is the flattest, unencumbered portion of the site available. So it is attractive. Now we have to look at others. To think about if that's not available to us, we could build on the hillside. This would be a 2-story kind of step up, a 2 or 3-story step up scheme where you enter at the lower level and possibly have some entry at the upper level, and you connect at the second floor. It's that type of stepping. And then the next slide is a look at if it got pressed further back into the site. And again, this would be a stepping scheme, but here it's stepping and bridging over the wetland that we can have a certain amount of work within the restricted area. And we could probably solve for it, the amount of work necessary, but it will take more nuance than option 1 or option 2. If you go to the next slide.
A little more nuance.
And similar, we look at a grading scale across a series of options. One of the issues that was brought up at the working group meeting was the desire to increase the amount of parking at Uncas from where it currently is. And that makes sense because we've increased it at Stanton, and we will have similar parking availability at Greenville. We'll want to get to the same levels for this building, slightly less given the slightly lower number of students. Next slide. And then in terms of building
Just 1 second. Susan, how many students at Uncas now?
I believe there are 200, hold on, 220, but I'll double check that while you guys still keep talking. I'll
Right.
find my
It's
spreadsheet.
not it's not.
Yeah,
highly
no, I mean,
available.
what I'm saying is that could work for,
Yeah,
if we get one of the schools open.
Exactly.
or potentially using Stanton if we need to, and not all, there's a.
At least for a few months, whatever,
Right.
right? Okay, all right. Go ahead, sorry.
No problem. So building program, kind of looking inside the building, if you go to the next slide, these are some of the guiding principles, things that we've heard, schools within schools, parity across the district with identity for each of them, consideration for building sustainability and maintenance at the bottom, supporting community access. Excuse me. And then lastly, supporting all students, the various types of interventions.
So
Yes, sir.
one question regarding, talk about Greenville and Stanton for a second in the design. Is there any plan for, Greg called me about this earlier, for a maintenance structure in there for storage of items and things like that?
We do not have an exterior maintenance structure as part of our program right now. And it was something that was brought up at a recent working group meeting, recognizing we're going to have to find a way to construct something outside the footprint of the building and find a home for it.
Okay.
So the OGA requirements don't allow any provisions for any type of outbuildings buildings or maintenance structures on site. Typically, what we've done on previous projects is provide like a storage shed for snow blowers, leaf blowers, that type of equipment. And typically you can get one of those structures outside of the project potentially cheaper than you can by including it within the project.
Yep. All right, well,
And I've had
it's something that we gotta
conversations
deal
with,
with, right? No, obviously it's something we gotta deal with. Sorry.
No worries. If you want to go, we could go to the next slide and let's move through these. So this was just the idea of learning happens everywhere. This is the idea of creating neighborhoods or clusters or small learning communities, trying to make a big school feel smaller. If you go to the next slide, hands-on learning, your program statement in each of these elementary schools calls for maker space as part of the library. So it's that kind of commitment to this idea of hands-on learning. Those are some key kind of elements of the building or the educational program statement. This is something, this idea of a Venn diagram, two schools within a larger school. a lower elementary and upper elementary, and then kind of shared supports. This is kind of a plan Venn diagram of that. If you go to the next slide, this is looking at it vertically, the possibility of, you know, that same type of Venn diagram, stack the two grade groups, and then the shared elements are off to the side here as support elements. And this is akin to what we have done at Stanton and Greenville. You go to the next slide, a variety of ways that we're discussing. How do we put intervention spaces within the cluster grouping so that they can be made part of that area? And this is ongoing conversation with the working group. Go to the next slide. Just looking at Moriarty specifically, this was a diagram that we had developed early on, just as a sketch of an organization at the back of the site. And if you go to the next slide, this is kind of a bubble diagramming directly over that footprint to give you a sense of the blues are the classroom areas, the reds are kind of the public areas, the browns and the greens are kind of the connective tissue that hold it all together. If you go to the next, those elements that are grouped together form a block in the building that could easily be separated from the rest of the academic core, so that after hours access, weekend access becomes more readily available to the community. And that's about an update of where we are in our conversations. Again, working with Susan and her team to be able to come back to you with kind of updated reports as we go through the next year. Any questions for us?
With the small footprint for Uncas and Moriarty, that would be approximately 3 less classrooms per building.
It's not an inline example of 3 less classrooms per building. Because of the way grade distribution works across multiple grades, if you were to take out 1 kindergarten classroom
Right.
and then had, or you had 5 kindergarten classrooms and 4 first grade classrooms, you would still need to advance the grades. So we looked at that closely. The only difference really that falls between these two projects is the size of the common areas, the library, the cafeteria, not even the gym, you know, those type of areas. The special education program, we shed 1 strive classroom per building because less kids, less special education need. You already have quite a few at the other buildings. And, you know, we were able to cut the building down. I think it's a 68,360 square foot building based on district needs. We ended up at 75,325 because you got to factor in the fact the state space standards doesn't capture the idea of a bolstered special education program, nor does it capture the idea of the space allocation required for a school-based health center.
So as we go along, we'll be looking for a space waiver legislatively.
So really, it's the common spaces, cafeteria, certain common space.
Library,
areas,
music
library, that
classroom.
would be smaller.
We also shed some square footage from each of the classrooms, but it was nothing major, maybe around 100 square feet from each classroom, if not less.
It was based on
Yeah.
what we were able to achieve in Greenville and Stanton in terms of the tightening of those buildings along the way. So they will be parallel. There will be parity. They will be in line with that square footage, but it's less than the original.
So it's going to be approximately the same number of classrooms per building.
Correct.
Through the entire district.
Yeah.
It's just, like you said, the savings will be a couple of classrooms in special ed.
Well, yeah, and just so you know, and that the committee knows, this was a large effort to have completed in the amount of time. This discussion actually applies to the revised grant application information that was needed based on the lower enrollment report. We had to have that space allocation completed in order to get the revised educational specifications approved at that November 12th meeting in order to have the documentation ready for the state.
So just one question. So just based on the previous discussion, and I understand how you had dates you did, but are we still on March 25, complete in August, July?
Yeah, I think what happened.
I know, I just want to.
Yeah, starting at 25.
Yeah,
That's for the building itself, not for the grounds.
Well, occupation by students.
Correct.
Eventually we go to that.
all right. Yeah, we'll work on all that. Hell, scaring me. So, all right, with that said, anything else? You're good. We're good. Downs. Let me just go ahead and bring your show up.
I think we have some good news to share with y'all.
Yippee!
It's good, not great.
Sheila? Stop it.
Not making lemons.
Good, not good. Oh, God.
Okay.
You're doing wonderful.
To the next slide, the kind of the big reveal, after going through the reconciliation with, CD documents that, DRA produced. Greenville project, we came in approximately 21,000 under budget on that project from what we were anticipating.
current
the
budget.
overall
Yeah,
project
under the
budget.
approved funding.
And on Stanton, we came in approximately $540,000 under budget. Drawings allowed us to be able to get to those numbers. They were, gave us a lot more information, full sets of specifications, which we could have a better understanding of the overall project. And I think with that, it's allowed us to go ahead and get moving and allow Mike to meet with the Board of Education and get things moving a lot faster to ensure that we can meet these dates of the 26th and the second.
Quick question, are we all straightened out on our logistics plan?
Yes.
Okay.
It's, again, still needs to be vetted with the educators in each building
Well, Stanton.
and the logistics of the blasting and other activities
what I'm-
that are necessary at Greenville. Still
That's what
need
I'm
to be
looking for.
vetted with the local building department and all the local authorities having jurisdiction.
But as far as our, basic phasing, where we're locating everything, trailers, all that is pretty well set. It is really just, we still have to meet with the city and confirm.
So shipping delays have become better.
Depends on what you're talking about,
I
but
mean,
in general.
overall, right now, we're not seeing the delays that we were seeing, a year, 2 years ago. Which is kind of allowed us not to
That
have to
translates
do
into money.
the earlier bid packages. So plus the timing of these projects will work out. Like I said, we're going to hit the ground running, in March. We can have bid packages out, for that with numbers and get moving. So don't foresee any of those issues.
We voted tonight on the SLR report, so you're gonna drop your Greenville numbers 500,000 again, so.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. All right.
Right.
Move on to the next slide unless anybody has any questions on where we landed. This is just some of the current things that we're working on, pulling all our packages together. This is a preliminary set aside plan for the CHRO. Started building that. This is just a sample of the Stanton one, which we're currently working through all the numbers right now to get that cleaned up. But it's showing you some of the things that we're currently doing right now. Next slide. Again, kind of we spent some time on this with DRAs. This is just a snippet. I'm not as good with PowerPoint to make a nice pretty slide that Jim and his crew made. This is, we've been assigned our task. We're pulling all that information together, having a meeting tomorrow with Mike and DRA to be able to make sure we have everything put together, on top of all the different items. Next slide. Again, here's the Stanton logistics plan. again, we'll have to, depending on how some of the other projects go, when we could actually take down the Stanton facility if something changed. But right now, we're not anticipating any of that. We're going with what the project has set forth for us at this moment.
There is a little bit of cleanup that still needs to be done. Down the field office can't go where it's shown because of the portable classrooms being necessary there, so. This is something that's ongoing.
Greenville, our logistics plan on that. Some of the things with Greenville, we still need to meet with NPU on plan where we'll bring temporary power in for both cities.
The overlay of this also needs to be revised. That's an old schematic design drawing. There's a different driveway layout.
Yeah,
There's other slight changes to the site logistics plan that this is overlaid on top of that needs to be cleaned up.
Just so, remind me, so Boswell Avenue is just gonna be cars?
Yeah.
No busing and.
Yes,
Golden State's gonna be-
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this,
will the traffic light be installed before this starts?
That
I'm
is
just thinking
something,
about that
that's
construction.
something that we're trying to understand as part of the site logistics, because if it's not installed before the construction starts, so there will more than likely be a requirement to have a dedicated flagger when deliveries are
Something,
coming and
yeah.
going from the project
You
site. So
know, it's a tricky
that's still
spot.
something that we're trying to work out.
Thank you.
The delivery area for the building would be the upper lot. Or
Based on the last conversations with Downs, they want to stage it from the 1A section. I haven't gotten a chance to speak to the project manager for this project more recently to see if if another idea has come to light as to how to do that. Once this plan gets updated based on, the new layout of the driveways and all of the information, will be better suited to provide an answer to that. There are some logistical concerns, whether or not the city is going to allow rock crushing, how blasting will work, proximity to property lines and rock crushing activities. The city will allow all the material to be crushed or just a portion of it. There's a variety of discussion items that still need to, take place prior to us going out to bid.
So that access road in the back probably has to be built first before anything else.
That would be a question for Downs. And,
With all that would be going in with the overall site work when we start removing the rock. That is part of the overall getting to the side. Yes.
Right, yeah, because you need to get in and you need a staging area.
Yes.
Yeah, because the other entrance, the road's much wider, and then
what?
from the front entrance, the
Golden Street?
road's much wider.
Right.
And
Yeah, but-
and then to North Main or so, that's all much wider. Boswell is so constricted, especially when people are parked on.
Yeah. It is,
But you travel through residential
People
neighborhoods.
fly through there.
yeah.
but they're adding the light.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm thinking of the construction, and how
Yeah.
difficult turning and, all that kind of thing.
Well, the turning radius onto Boswell won't necessarily be the easiest thing for big trucks.
And I know
as
you're
well,
changing, you're
without-
expanding the curve, right?
Ultimately, you need some level of access to get the type of materials that we're talking about in here.
So they probably approaching from the north side.
That was the intent when
There's
this
going
was
to be
presented
some that's going to
initially.
be coming in on the south side as well. Just there's so much of an elevation.
Yeah, you'll need a
change.
flag man for that, because you're gonna have to swing wide to be able to.
You can't communicate completely from both sides of the site without using those both entrances.
Well, if we open up the mouth and then just worry about the island later.
Yeah.
Do the island once it's, we're straightened out. All right.
Okay, just work in progress. The constructability law, RFI law is ongoing. We'll continue through the bid process, and again, kind of what SLR will be helping with anything that comes through during the actual bid process. Right now, we're in the process of finalizing all the scopes of work that we'll be going out to bid with. And one of the questions we talked about earlier on was just one of just getting our hands wrapped around the stormwater permit when we anticipate that to be released.
It was submitted about 2 weeks ago to DEEP. The permit was paid for. All submission materials were submitted. I believe they have a statutory 60-day review period that they're allowed, so I don't anticipate there being any issue with the DEP stormwater permit prior to you starting.
Is the bidding still required?
Yeah.
It is?
Yes.
So I heard it wasn't, so I just wanted to make.
Oh,
sure.
you did?
Yeah, just, you may want to ask, just so that way we have, because we're gonna need somebody to do that.
Okay, and then work that we're start on is just NPU coordination, understanding the equipment delivery dates that they will be having. And again, coordinating the gas line installation, which we don't have any problem with those dates. Want to get on top of filing of the building permit. I believe you mentioned that was all been turned in, you say?
The building permit? No,
Okay.
no, the building permit is not even close to being turned
Yeah,
in.
that would be-
The building permit won't be turned in until
That's what we get to see.
after the addendas are issued and there's a conformed building set, and then we'll turn it around at that point.
We have the Stanton PCR meeting that we're scheduled for next Tuesday on, and then the Greenville PCR meeting on the 2nd of December. So they're all coming up extremely quick. Other milestones and critical items that we're want to keep our pulse on, of course, is the final P and Z approval. PCR approval, which we again should hope to have pending after we complete our work in the coming weeks, and then issuance of the deed.
Any idea, do we have any history, or you guys have any history on these new PCR reviews as far as the turnaround once we have them?
Depends on who's doing the review.
Yeah.
We
We,
made a special request to have a reviewer that we've worked with in the past to review, so I anticipate that that will provide us a little assistance getting these through.
yeah, we've worked with new reviewers where it's taken quite a bit of time, and the more experienced reviewers can get through it quicker.
Because that's one of my, concerns that,
Yeah.
we'll be sitting here for weeks waiting for them to.
Provided that the estimates are good, that there aren't any errors with state project numbers and sign offs on sheets, it shouldn't be an issue. But, this package that I have here that was in these 2 envelopes are basically the belt and suspenders approach that will be given, right? The backside of this form has a code conformity certification for local reviewers. There's a redundant form. Sometimes the reviewers tell you they want one or the other.
So
If we give them both, then we don't fall into the trap of having to, the only thing that sometimes happens with these reviews is if a process or procedure changes and then they want something added to the documents, which is usually minor in nature. We get it to them within days of the PCR meeting, and then they turn around an approval to bid letter relatively quickly after that.
And Mike, it's fair to say that we allocated 4 weeks. We
Yeah.
actually allocated the month of December. And historically, it falls within that 4 weeks from acceptance to sign off. I think we've allocated enough time between when we complete and when Downs is ready to go to bid.
Yeah.
To address that.
Okay, from the time we get their
Hold
approval.
on, Sheila.
Sheila,
What is PCR?
Plan completion review.
by the state,
Yeah, it's with the Office of Grants Administration. There used to be a SDR, which was schematic design review, a DDR, which was design development review, and the final meeting was the plan completion review.
what we do with Kevin.
Upon the final approval of the plan completion review, they issue you a notice that you are now able to go out to bid. Meaning that they've reviewed everything, they're in agreement with how you presented costs, and you're good to go for bidding purposes.
How fast the turnaround as far as going to bid once you get the PCR approval?
That's really a question for Downs. Once everything's ready, it should be quick. I mean,
It's on the last schedule update.
You know, we'll have-
We're bidding
we'll have a conformed construction.
January into February. Yeah, that's the plan. It's not. Starting in March. Okay. All right.
That's
That's
all
good.
we had.
That's good.
By then.
Time to pay the bills.
Okay, thank you. All right, consent agenda, you should have everything. Like. So, did I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make that motion.
By Stacy Gould, got a second?
Sheila, second.
Sheila Hayes with a second. Any no discussion on the consent agenda,
That's an addition to the Stanton billing for DRA. That's one of their sub-consultants. It's just a piece of backup that's reflected on the main cover sheet.
it's included in the DRA.
See.
Yeah, it's in our.
It's out by itself in my packet. I just didn't.
Yeah. It was probably double-sided, and when the copies went through, it got
Okay.
mixed up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all in favor, Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Joe, myself, yes, 8-0, Stacy had to step out. That's good. I'm missing a page of my agenda.
Jumbled somewhere.
Agenda.
The discussion of next steps.
Okay, so, I recall now. All right, so we're, when do we anticipate, I'm gonna ask, I think, we've covered that, most of that ground already today, with the exception of, at what point you need to start worrying about a CM for the Uncas and Moriarty project?
So that was in my report. I'm hopeful to have that drafted and out to bid early December. Like I said, the package is going to be bolstered based on just the additional support that having some additional pre-construction services would provide us on these projects. So I just want to get some more language into the
RFP.
request for proposal. And then I should have that put together and ready to go.
Okay. All right,
It's the basis of it is going to be the basis of the Greenville and Stanton one. It'll just be some additions that we've noticed internally within the company over the past few months of things that we can bolster in the RFP to get better services.
okay. I think that's it, right? Anything else to come before the committee? Unless I got,
Next meeting in December.
right? What's the date? 17th? Yeah,
17.
December 17th. Does anyone have anything else they need to bring up? Motion adjourned by Stacy Gould,
Second.
second by Mark Poulos. Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Peter, Stacy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Joe, myself, yes, 9-0. And adjourn at 8:07 PM.